SABC senior news reporter Natasha Puri is in Cape Town and has more for us on this. Natasha, very good afternoon to you and thank you so much for your time. I understand, of course, that you are joined by the chair of the commission, Mr. Mosotho Moepya, about this. Just give us a sense then, what came out of this conference?
Well, thank you so much, Unaiti. I think very, very interesting conversations and deliberations amongst the various political party leaders that are here, that are actually represented on that political liaison committee of the IEC. You've got representatives also of the election management bodies from some of these countries that have actually introduced e-voting, and also some who have actually abandoned, e-voting, on the feasibility also. And I think the big question also was that when is this going to be phased out, and has that started? And of course, we heard the chairperson there of the IEC, Mr. Mosotho Moepya, saying that it won't be implemented in the 2026 local government elections, which is next year, nor will it be implemented in the 2029, but possibly after that in the foreseeable future. But let's just take this conversation to him. Mr. Moepya, thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. I think very interesting conversations that actually have come out of, the first day of the e-voting conference. I think apart from the delegates who have asked about the timelines, people on social media are asking, could this be next year? Could this be in 2029? But of course you said, no, not yet.
Certainly not 2026 from where I sit, but we are going to hear this discussion. I don't think we should preempt the views of South Africans, but 2026 is really around the corner. One of the things that became evident this morning was that we need to have an appreciation, an understanding of the various ways in which e-voting can be implemented. We are not even there yet. South Africans must be comfortable with that discussion. They must make a choice. Law must be enacted. And all of these processes will take into account consultations with the populace. That's why I say 2026, far too early. 2029, I can't say no, but I think if you look at, for example, how long India, how long Canada and other places have taken to get to that point, Brazil, yes, it's taken a little longer. I know we are South Africans. I know when we want something, we go for it. But I want to caution us and say, let's go into this discussion on an informed basis. Let's not take any reaction to it, and let's be careful, as we always are.
But Mr. Moepya, I think one issue that we probably don't highlight as much is that at the end of the day, South Africans have a say in this process, and they're the ones that actually should interact foremost into this process. Because you take the last elections, for example, certain people didn't even know about the 3-ballot system, and at the end of the day, you find that people complain to say, but we were not informed. And the IEC is now saying that before this, or while we actually at the initial stages of starting this process, come in, chip in your views, because at the end of the day, the South African voter is the end user of this program.
Let's put this in context, Natasha. This process that has brought us here today began in June last year, when you and I were sitting in Midrand at the Results Center. The HSRC had already been given a brief, and they were commencing this. We are not reacting to what has happened. We are not preempting what the future is going to be. And as you heard them say this morning, the discussions were really at, everywhere South Africans that would ordinarily not have the opportunity to be heard would be. So it was at the grassroots, as you say. And that discussion has brought us here, but we accept that it's not the end of it's the beginning. The grassroots have been listened to. Their views are what we are talking about, but there's more grassroots that we need to have. The fact that we are talking about a representative sample, big enough for that matter, of South Africans, does not mean that we must stop. This is a national conversation you and I are having with the rest of the country. But this conversation must move way beyond where we are. It must find its expression in our different provinces, in the languages spoken in our provinces. It must find expression in municipalities where people are. It must find expression in our wards, where people meet, where they play sport, where they fellowship in church services, where they meet in their traditional meetings. Every area of society. We must meet young people at university, at school, at work, everywhere. So this is a discussion that we have started, and it's a discussion we really want every one of us to nurture. It is not the future of just you and I, it's the future of this nation that is at stake, and we want to be as inclusive as possible. It does not mean, therefore, that we will not miss anyone, but it must, of course, mean that we must put in an effort to engage, to spread this conversation as widely as possible, and to hear carefully, to listen carefully, and to follow up with the right and relevant action that will move our democracy forward.
Mr. Moepya, thank you so much. I do understand that you have to go back inside. Deliberations are still underway. There's a program now after lunch, and of course, I think tomorrow I'm really looking forward to hearing those inputs from the various electoral management bodies, who have actually implemented the system. As you know, that the country of Estonia, for those who don't know, Unati, had actually spearheaded this, this process of electronic voting. It seems that it's actually working well for that country. As for countries like Namibia, who've actually implemented it, then abandoned it, it'd be quite interesting to hear what actually worked for them, what didn't work for them, and of course compare notes as South Africa and all these other countries that have implemented e-voting, I beg your pardon. But of course, I think the overriding message here is that South Africans need to have a say in the system, and they should participate. There was a policy discussion document that was actually launched. I do understand that it will be available for the public on the IEC's website, and the message from the IEC is to implore the public that this process is not only for policy makers, for civil society, but at the end of the day, it's about you as the voter, South Africans. So these are just some of the conversations that are coming out of here at the ICC in Cape Town, Unati.
I'm pretty sure, Natasha, that South Africans will definitely be voting the thumbs up for this kind of initiative. But thank you so much, Natasha. Let's leave it there for now. Natasha Moepya out in Cape Town for us at that IEC conference. Of course, the IEC hosting over about 200 delegates in Cape Town for the electronic voting for South Africa conference that's happening there now over 3 days, just to explore then the future of e-voting in this country.